Our universe, by far, is stranger than we can know. Yet our planet, too, is full of wonders. Some so curious that seeing may not always be believing. But everything in this program is true. Everything is truly weird.
When the call came for a tragic young man, how his family kept in touch with his memory. Joined in life the Siamese twins and the grave that unites them in death. And the tomb where the world's fattest twin waits to meet his maker and his brother.
This is the Collector. At the eye of a web, with connections everywhere, the Collector delights in all that is odd, the strange, the incredible. That obsessive and relentless quest leads now to
strange graves and bizarre burials. My first stop is the last stop for more than 1 million Californians. Let's go visit the City of the Dead.
You can't leave your heart in San Francisco or any other bit of you. Any spare space here's for the living. Die, and you've got to move out to the City of the Dead.
We are the town of Colma. We are the only cemetery city in the world. 1,200 residents, and we have 1.5 million residents underground. We are a town of 17 cemeteries. There's a Greek cemetery, an Italian cemetery, Catholic cemetery, a Serbian cemetery, Chinese, Japanese, cemetery for animals. And then some are non-sectarian, and there are Jewish cemeteries. Almost all nationalities are represented here.
With so many dead residents, 1.5 million of them, Colma hasn't got a school, a grocery store, a church, a cinema.
But we do have monument dealers, several. We do have numerous floral shops and other business that related to cemetery business. We hear all the jokes. People are dying to get in Colma. Business is dead, thankfully. We have a lot of people under us. Aside from the jokes, I think we in Colma have a very strong sense of community, and we're very proud of our cemeteries. We think they're beautiful. They're kept up beautiful. I think if you had loved ones that were deceased, this is where you'd want them to be.
But what are the neighbors like?
And well, being that I live in a cemetery, the neighbors don't give me any trouble at all.
Where would we be without our mobiles? Completely out of touch. You can't take them with you, that's for sure. But you can do the next best thing.
Diana Cohen is visiting the grave of her brother, Guy. He was a popular man and always liked to keep in touch with his family and friends. So when he died, Diana instantly realized what she wanted for her brother's memorial.
This is the grave of my brother Guy in Ashkelon Cemetery. As you can see, it's a cellular phone made of granite. My brother Guy was a fan of a cellular phone. Everybody remembers him talk to the phone. This is the first thing that we thought to do after he died.
Whose idea was it?
It was my idea to do it. I told to my family after the funeral, everybody agreed to do a grave like a cellular phone. I was involved in the gravestone making. I went every day to see it, and I think that it's exactly what I want. Naturally, some people like it and the other not. But I guess the most important that me and my family like it, and this is the way that we want to remember him like he was.
And Guy himself, what would he say about it?
It's a very sad question and hard, but I guess that Guy would like it.
Of course, Guy won't be using his mobile again, but in the display screen of his phone, he's left a message forever.
When I read it, I can remember his voice. It's made, "Hello, medaber Guy, ma nishma?"
And that means, hello, Guy speaking, how are you?
A monumental task for a monumental mason. And here's another. This one was built by Mike DiPiazza. What is this?
The Mercedes Grave, it's a full-size replica of a Mercedes 240 limousine.
Who was it built for?
Well, it was a young boy that died, and he always wanted this car. He was only 15, and I guess he loved it so much that they wanted to give it to him this way as a memorial.
But it must have been expensive.
It was well over $250,000, and I think it also serves a purpose in the cemetery. When other people are on funerals, it may take their mind off of what they're there for and maybe put a little smile on their face and say, look, there's a car out of granite, and maybe make their day go a little bit easier.
Thanks, Mike. Goodbye. Here's another car lover. Sandra West from California was quite a lady, and as she contemplated death, she decided to go one better than the Mercedes grave. She wrote in her will that she wanted to be buried in her most precious possession, her bright blue Ferrari. No one ever said no to Sandra, and she, of course, never said no to a photo opportunity, even in death. Here's what happened. They put her and the Ferrari in a huge wooden crate, took it to the graveyard. There they lowered it with a crane into an 8-foot by 18-foot hole. They sealed her in with concrete, but that didn't stop the story of Sandra West's strange burial getting out. Everyone marveled that it took a gigantic crane to lay her to rest. Everyone except its operator, Chester Sellers.
They brought the Ferrari in on a flatbed, and they placed the coffin in at the funeral home, and then drove the Ferrari on the bed to the graveside, and we met them there with a crane and strap rigging to hook onto it, set it in the grave, and then poured the concrete on it.
How much do you think the car was worth?
Well, in those days, that one was probably worth $75,000. It was a fairly new car.
So don't you think this was a waste of money?
Well, I guess that depends on what side of the creek you're standing on. If you got the money, probably not, but to me, that was a tremendous bunch of money.
Are there any more details you can share with us?
That's about the extent that I could tell you on that, because we had to sack up and go to another job.
The Siamese twins Chang and Eng we've all heard of. Yes, they really were born in the Orient in 1811. But I've tracked them down to somewhere quite different, and you'll never guess who's buried almost next door.
It's nice when you find someone who's just like you. In the 19th century, there were two sets of famous Siamese twins, Chang and Eng, and Millie and Christine. But who would believe that both sets would end up buried as neighbouring graves in North Carolina, USA?
Millie Christine was joined at the spinal cord, actually allowing both of them to walk in a crab-like position. The body parts they had in common would be the stomach, the anus, and the vagina. They separately each had their own individual heart, but they also shared a portion of a lung. The nervous system was shared from the waist down. If you touched one knee, both felt it. But above the waist, they had separate nervous systems.
Eng and Chang had a band of cartilage about 4 or 5 inches long, attaching them to each other at the sternums. And it was found at autopsy that there, in fact, was a common vessel between them, so they did share a bit of their circulatory system.
Both sets of twins made their fortunes performing. Billed as the 8th wonders of the world, they sometimes even appeared together. Being joined at the hip certainly didn't cramp their styles.
Eng and Chang together had 21 children. Chang had 10 and Eng had 11. They built 2 homes and made the decision to live in one home 3 days and then move to the other home 3 days.
Okay, so we know about the housing arrangements, but what about those of the bedroom?
When one twin was with his wife, that twin was in control. That twin made the decisions, and I'm sure that carried over into the bedroom.
But Millie Christine had a different attitude.
Millie Christine said to each other, "We shall never marry, for we shall be completely devoted to each other." She considered herself as one. Therefore, as she walked up to the conductor to get on the train, she only presented one ticket to him. She was allowed to ride the train and also to get rooms in hotel as a single person.
But Chang and Eng would have liked nothing better than separate beds.
It's my understanding that Chang was the more dominant personality and liked having his way.
Eng, he was more easygoing, but had to give in quite a bit to Chang, so I understand.
Chang liked to stay up quite late at night, having a good time.
And Eng, he liked to go to bed early because he was an early riser.
Each pair of twins shared the same circulatory system. If one died, the survivor would face a nightmare. So they both hoped they would die at the same time.
Being very close to the age of 58, Millie died. Immediately, Christine began to sing Amazing Grace. The attending physician, Dr. Cornwell, knew that he needed to get an order from the governor of North Carolina to be able to administer some type of medication that would end Christine's life.
Chang died first, and then in a little while, Eng was so frightened, and it was said that he could have died from fright.
If life had been a problem for the twins, so was death. Because of the threat of body snatchers, the bickering Chang and Eng were buried together in a secure tin box beneath the same headstone. Oddly, Millie Christine, who lived their lives as one, ended up beneath two separate headstones.
Other twins, other grave problems.
Crab Creek, high in the hills of North Carolina. The world's largest twins lived here, until one day, tragedy struck.
He died in 1979 in a motorcycle accident in Niagara Falls, Canada. I knew when my brother passed away at 6:15, July the 14th, 1979. Nobody didn't have to tell us, being the world's largest twin and being that close.
Although their combined weight topped 1,598 pounds, Billy and Benny managed to tour the world. But now the world came to Crab Creek.
We had about 2,000 or 3,000 people. This graveyard was full of people from around the world.
Benny and his wife went to great lengths to design an appropriate memorial.
Stayed in a campground down in Elberton, Georgia. We would go around to different granite stores every day trying to find somebody that would do what we was wanting to do. Money was no object. We wanted the right granite, and we wanted a diamond cut done on the motorcycles. And that's not just sprayed on, that's cut about a half inch thick down into the stone. And we finally found a person to do it, a manufacturer. And when we came back, it took them about 2 months, and they had it done, brought it up here and said it weighs right at 20 tons, I think.
So there's room enough in there for two.
Mine is here, and all I got to do, when I go be with the Lord, they just got to put in the date. I've already got a reservation.
In part 2, film star Bela Lugosi. He lived as Dracula, he died as Dracula, but he didn't join the undead.
In Riverside Cemetery at Asheville in the deep south of America, David Olson is standing by. He says he's got some really interesting graves to show me. Okay, David, I can't wait any longer. These graves had better be really fascinating.
This monument is probably my favorite in the cemetery. It reminds me of one that my
No, David, not interesting. Another one. But Englishmen are buried the world over. Do try to surprise me. What about a grave of somebody who met a really peculiar end? Somebody who died when lightning struck twice? Was zapped by a meteorite? Perished by the light of a blue moon, crashed into a herd of flying pigs, drowned in the fountain of eternal youth, spontaneously combusted, was kidnapped by aliens and died with a grin on their face?
birthday grave here of Edward and Ida Whiteside, who both died on their respective birthdays. Edward was born April 12, 1864, died April the 12th, 1930. Ida, was born June 23rd, 1877. She died June 23rd, 1908.
Hey, that was worth the visit. What do you know about them?
I really don't know anything about Edward and Ida.
Well, do people visit their graves on their birthdays?
I don't know if people come to their gravesite on their birthdays or not.
Did they do anything special on their birthdays?
I don't know if they had big celebrations on their birthdays or not. My wife's birthday was yesterday.
It's never cheap to die in America, and for some, their last resting place has turned out dead expensive.
Hartford, Connecticut, insurance capital of the USA. This land is worth $1 million. So what is a church and a trash can on wheels doing here? A passing Mongolian throat singer reveals how it has remained a protected site.
So whose grave is it?
Alan Morrison. It's either the son or the father.
Okay, that's enough Mongolian throat singers. Let's ask an expert.
What's behind us here is quite an unusual circumstance where a family in the 18th century found it necessary to bury a young family member who had died of smallpox and wasn't allowed to be buried more traditionally, so the family buried them in what was at the time their family orchard. And the father, Norman Morrison, was buried here when he passed away some years later.
So why are you so interested in these graves?
I'm a local real estate investor and developer.
So how much could it be worth to you?
Somewhere between $100,000 and $1 million, depending on a variety of factors.
But you discovered a grave problem with developing the site, didn't you?
I discovered that, in fact, the property couldn't be developed for commercial purposes, and that, in fact, it is a family burial site not to be touched.
A warning. Be careful how you get your gravestone designed. If you get your inspiration from something like this, you could be leaving behind a message that's hard to digest.
A warning from beyond the grave is a rare thing. A warning from the grave itself is a collector's item. Behind these bars is a roasting tray for cooking meat in. And under this stone lies someone who loved his food so much that it killed him.
This is the grave of William Simmons. He died at the end of the 18th century, and he was obviously a man who really enjoyed his victuals, and especially meat. And on the gravestone itself is a poem that William Simmons wrote about himself and about his love for the dripping, particularly in the pan. Here lies my corpse, who was the man that loved the sop in the dripping pan. But now, believe me, I am dead. See, here the pan stands at my head. My neighbours, they perhaps will laugh when they do read my epitaph. When there was a school here, the village children were all made to learn this by heart, and elderly parishioners will recite it with great glee. There are very strict regulations about what can go onto gravestones, and certainly a dripping pan would not be allowed today.
In California, there's the one place in the world where they can really cope if you shop till you drop. In LA, the coroner's gone commercial.
If shopping's a killer for you, this may be the place. Live fashion? No. Dead good? Maybe. The coroner's office in LA, already busy dealing with thousands of deaths, have added to their workload by going into business. Step in and meet them. It all came from an idea of a department secretary 5 years ago. She thought it would be funny to print body outlines on beach towels and sell them.
It has the Department of Coroner, and of course it has the Department of Coroner, County of Los Angeles on it. The t-shirt, as you can see, is it has coroner on it. This is the #1 seller here, believe it or not. They also sell mugs. It has our mascot on it is Sherlock Bones. This is one of our patches. It has the medical caduceus. We also have a hat that has the body chalk outline. They also have keychains. small keychains like this. They have a little foot that they have that says, "Don't drink and drive. This could be you."
Nobody should be without a body bag. Oh, that is
There's a bunker.
another necessity.
Does death pay?
I understand that it's grossed in the last 5 years over $2 million. We have kind of a unique sign right up here. It says, "Shoplifters next of kin will be notified." We have a lot of children's wear here, believe it or not, for t-shirts and things.
This can't be serious, can it?
We're very proud of our department, but we do take serious what we do here.
Half a century ago died a film star who'd drawn his living from the undead. Many take their secrets to the grave, but not this man.
Make it in Hollywood and you live forever, on film. Make it time and again as the same character, and even in death it can be hard to let go. The peaceful lawns of Holy Cross Cemetery conceal a dark secret. In this grave, Bela Lugosi, the man who'd been Dracula in life, was Dracula in death. As far as we can see, the undertaker stopped short at the teeth, but everything else, the cape, the evening dress, even the jewelry, followed him to the afterlife.
Lugosi was a very charismatic figure, and I think because he was larger than life, because he could embody this character of an undead count, that he was forever typecast, which as an actor was a tragedy, but as an icon ensured his immortality. And he dreaded death, he feared it, and he didn't want to be alone. And of course, as luck would have it, he died alone. His wife had gone out to do some shopping, and when she came back, she thought the apartment was inordinately still. And when she went and looked in the bedroom, there he was, lying on the bed, clutching a copy of a script called The Final Curtain.
So tell us about the funeral.
He was buried in his Dracula cape and evening dress tuxedo. And he carried the medallion that he wore in the Dracula films. And he just looks like he's asleep. And actually, at the funeral service itself, a woman who was not related to Lugosi came barreling into the ceremony, and she had a little screaming boy with her. She said, "Come on, son, I want you to see." "Oh, no, I don't want to go, I don't want to go." And she made her son go right up and touch Lugosi in the coffin. She said, "See, he really is dead."
In the next program, the collector returns. The quarry and the quest will be different, but one thing will never change. The collector's dedication to gathering the oddest, the strangest, the most incredible that our planet has to offer. Prepare to be surprised.